Hello, welcome to the World Poetry Cafe Family Tent. I'm Trevor Millum and I write poetry and short stories for children and grown-ups, and I also write teaching materials. And in this little video I'm going to share some poems with you and give some ideas for some things you might like to write yourself perhaps. So I'm going to begin with one which is really for any age and started out as a poem for grown-ups, but quite a lot of children seem to like it. It's called The 7 Days of Dieting. On the first day of dieting, the only thing I ate was a piece of crispy rye bread. On the second day of dieting, the only things I ate were 2 tubs of coleslaw and a piece of crispy rye bread. On the third day of dieting, the only things I ate were 3 natural yogurts, 2 tubs of coleslaw and a piece of crispy rye bread. On the fourth day of dieting, the only things I ate were 4 chopped up walnuts, 3 natural yogurts, 2 tubs of coleslaw and a piece of crispy rye bread. On the fifth day of dieting, the only things I ate were 5 lettuce leaves, 4 chopped up walnuts, 3 natural yogurts, 2 tubs of coleslaw and a piece of crispy rye bread. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. On the 6th day of dieting, the only things I ate were 6 grated carrots, 5 lettuce leaves, 4 chopped up walnuts, 3 natural yogurts, 2 tubs of coleslaw and a piece of crispy rye bread. On the 7th day of dieting, the only things I ate were 7 chocolate chip cookies, 6 white bread sarnies, 5 jam donuts, 4 English muffins, 3 Eccles cakes, 2 chip butties and no flippin' crispy rye bread. Didn't care for it in the end. So that's the kind of little poem you could do. It starts off with something you do in one day and you add to it each day until you build up a whole list. This one is completely different and it's just a bit of fun. And it's about Valerie Mallory and her friend Suhu Nu. And they are a little bit unusual in that they have a kangaroo as a pet. And this is what happened with them. Valerie Mallory and Suhu Nu went to school on a kangaroo. Halfway there and halfway back they met a duck with half a quack. Valerie Mallory and Suhu Nu arrived at school with a kangaroo. Halfway out and halfway in they met a cat with half a grin. Valerie Mallory and Suhu Nu came home from school on a kangaroo. Halfway here and halfway there they met a clown with half a chair. Valerie Mallory and Suhu Nu went upstairs on a kangaroo. Halfway up and halfway down they met a king with half a crown. Valerie Mallory and Suhu Nu went to bed with a kangaroo. Half asleep and half awake they dreamt of a duck and a quack, a grin and a cat, a king and a clown and a chair and a crown and a kangaroo with half a shoe. Now I read that one fairly quickly, and sometimes you should take your time, but sometimes it's quite fun to see how fast you can read something and still be understood. I hope I was understood. Now here's one that has been in lots of poetry collections, and I know there are little videos of this that you can find on YouTube and elsewhere. But this is one of the original versions of a poem called Sad I Ams. I am the ring from an empty soda can, the scrapings from an unwashed porridge pan, the severed arm of last year's Action Man. I am the envelope on which the gum is gone, the sticky tape where you can't find the end, the toothless stapler, the inkless pen, the dried up stick of glue that mars instead of mends, the stamped address reply that you forgot to send. I am a garden overgrown with weeds, a library book that no one ever reads, a stray which no one thinks to feed, and the piece of good advice which no one seems to need. Now that is a little structure of a poem that anybody can use to create their own collection. Could be sad I ams. And remember, you're sad, but you're not desperate. Because sometimes when I've been working with children, some of them have written, I am the jet crashing down in flames. No, it's not that serious. You're just a bit sad. So, see, you can have a go at that. Or, of course, you could do glad I ams. All sorts of different I ams. This next one is based on a daydream. And I don't want you to take it too seriously, but it was something that I thought about once when I was standing at the back of the school hall. Did I tell you about the day the head exploded? He was up on the stage in his usual way, hands clasped together, about to say, let us pray, when all of a sudden, what was the matter? He went quite berserk and grew fatter and fatter. Everyone looked up, their eyes riveted on the expanding figure in front of them. He was in a terrible tiz. His eyes were rotating, and his tongue went fizz. Knees started knocking, made a terrible row, and then he blew up with a furious kapow. You can imagine the mess it made. There were bits of his liver in the rissoles that day. We found both his knees when we went out to play. Sparrows flew off with toes in their beaks. Bits I won't mention were collected for weeks. Now, I'm not suggesting that you write about your teachers exploding or anything like that, but a daydream where your mind just wanders, that can be something that is a starting point for a poem or a story. Here's a structure that's been used many times, and I've used it a lot with children, and so have they, in order to create little poems. And it's simply called 10 Little School Children. 10 little school children standing in a line. One opened her mouth too far, and then there were 9. 9 little school children trying not to be late. One missed the school bus, and then there were 8. 8 little school children in the second 11. One twisted an ankle, and then there were 7. 7 little school children trying out some tricks. One went a bit too far. Then there were 6. 6 little school children hoping teacher would arrive. One flicked a paper dart. Then there were 5. 5 little school children standing by the door. One tripped the teacher up, and then there were 4. 4 little school children longing for their tea. One was kept in after school. Then there were 3. 3 little school children lurking by the loo. Teacher saw a puff of smoke. Then there were 2. 2 little school children think that fights are fun. One got a bloody nose. And then there was 1. 1 little school child playing in the sun. Whistle blew, buzzer went, then there were none. So I've adapted that to a lot of different kinds of creatures. We've had 10 little aliens, 10 little astronauts, 10 little sports people, 10 little footballers, all sorts of things like that. And of course, if you don't want to do 10, you can just start at 7, or 5. then just work your way down. You'll find that all the numbers 1 to 10 have a lot of rhymes apart from 7. You're a bit stuck on 7. Got 11, Heaven, Devon, a few other place names, but it doesn't matter if it's not an exact rhyme. Don't worry. Okay, I'm going to finish this little collection with a more serious poem, and it's called The Ballad of Unicorn Isle. Once upon a faraway time, before the clocks had learned to chime, when every river spoke in rhyme, once upon a time. Once within a distant land, where mountains hadn't heard of man, where dolphins played and bluebirds sang, once within a land. Then and there in echoing light, where gold was day and silver night, lived unicorns of purest black and white, there in echoing light. One shining day in shimmering glade, the seer had come to speak, they said, an ancient one with eyes of jade, one shimmering shining day. I saw the future far away. Hearken, friends, to what I say. I saw grey night, and I saw grey day in the future far away. I saw the pale two-legged beast rise up from west, rise up from east, and slay our kind for fun and feast, the pale two-legged beast. It hunted down the unicorn, it cut off head, it cut off horn, or stole our foals as they were born, and caged the noble unicorn. Once, upon a desperate hour, in the shadow of the great moonflower, they made a pact to use their power upon that desperate hour. So faded they from human sight, though wild geese see them from their flight, and children dream of them at night, invisible to human sight. And once, within a faraway land, where unicorns first heard of man, where hotels now rise and tourists tan, once within a land. Well, I hope there's a few ideas there that might help you to do some writing and read more poems. And I'm said that along with this little collection of poems, this little video, there's a collection hat, and if you wanted to make a donation, then that would be lovely. And if you don't, that's also fine. Enjoy your writing and enjoy your reading.